And welcome again to Living in the 21st Century. Joining me today is Catheryn Laduke. She is a voice in CEDFA, which is the Socioeconomic Development Foundation of Boston. She is a voice with disability. She has her own disability to deal with. And Catheryn, I often wonder with Cowdens disease, you know, there are folks who would want to go to surgery and say, you know, I hope this is soon over with so I can get ahead with my life. And with the Cowdens disease, it's a situation where we have close to probably 2,000 people in America right now suffering this fatal disease. And it is one of these diseases that you constantly have to get a surgery to remove something because there are continuous growths in the body, and there's also problems in the reproductive life cycle. There are so many things you have to face with. I know at this time that you are prepping now for surgery, but tell me something. How do you mentally prepare yourself for something like this, knowing that this could be a continuous part of your life?
That is a very good question, because you really don't know the inevitable after this particular surgery that I'm going to be having. So there's nothing really you can do to prepare.
Okay.
Because I've had surgeries for such a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just the fact of you have to mentally collect yourself
mm-hmm.
for the moment that's happening to that
Yes.
particular thing. So it's just, that's basically, that's like the valid answer to the question.
Okay. Well, one of the things I want to ask you, I know you're the director on our board, and I know there's so much you can do at any given time considering what you have to deal with, your sickness in your personal life. But for all those other women out there who are suffering with this rare kind of a disease that is fatal and potentially fatal, what kind of advice, what kind of advice would you want to give these women who may be of a weaker state in mind and can't deal with it? How could you give them a word that best prepare them for life ahead and feel important, considering the healthcare system is not so nice to those with disabilities?
No, they're not. And the thing is that you just really don't know when it comes to that particular problem, because like, depending on the specialist, and even that the specialists that know about my problem, like, it goes like they really don't listen,
right.
Which is a problem. Like, you have to, like, so my advice to continuously push these doctors that know about the problem, even the doctors that don't know, to continue educating, because there's more things than to just one variant of the gene, because there is more variants of the Cowdens genes. And people thought that, like, my doctors thought, they were saying, like, you're crazy that you think there's another variant. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm like, why did I have these problems at a young age instead of having the problems at 30 and older? Because that's usually what happens with Cowdens symptoms, that happens like that. So, like, it's just, that's basically my advice to give to people that are going through that, and also other things in general, that they're not alone. And You know,
Do
you
you
just
think
got to
that?
continuously advocate, even if it gets you anxious. So,
Do you think the doctors are compassionate enough, or do you think that because this is something where it has an abrupt ending to one's life, that they don't put enough attention or
effort.
give enough attention to people who are suffering this kind of a disease?
Yes, I agree with what you were saying about that with the particular disease. That, you know, yeah, doctors are compassionate and they give good bedside manner, but they need to make more effort for people that have like illnesses that could turn into potentially life-threatening, especially with mine. Like, yes, it's not that life-threatening for now, but if you don't get it checked, or you ignore your signs of your body, like something can happen and then you can end up having cancer. Like, nobody wants that, right?
No, certainly not. Is there any cases where people that you know of who has this disease, when go unchecked, they end up having cancer from it?
Yes. I've met people. I now am a part of a Cowdens group that's part of the P10 Foundation, actually. And I didn't know that this support group was people from that foundation that are that have the same problem, because like I thought I was completely alone,
Right.
because like not a lot of people in the world have my condition. So, when I found these people, they had the same stories, the same things that have gone on, and they had colon cancer, they had kidney cancer, they had all the cancers that from Cowdens in the book. And sometimes it was hard to look at their stories. Is like, yeah, like I appreciate hearing their stories, but also it's just like, it's sad that there's a lot more people with my condition that are far worse than me.
Right.
And sometimes you got to feel thankful.
I know you told me
You're not as bad as others with this problem. Because I could be worse with this problem, because like this problem can be bad if you don't get it checked. But
right.
I've been proactive about getting myself checked for years, and with all the mental preparation, it's just like you just get used to it because you're born with it and it's not going to go away. And even with my medical condition, like, I wouldn't be myself without it, and we wouldn't be here today if I didn't have this problem. And I fully embraced the problem. So,
okay.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Tell me something. I heard you mention the P10 Foundation several times, and this is an organization that is, at this present time, is doing some form of study on the Cowdens disease. What information you have right now on the P10 Foundation?
Well, from that group, like I'm getting information obtained from that group. It's like I don't really have direct connections to them, but like I'm getting there though, because it's just like it is a relatively slow process. So it's just like what right now is like there is clinical trials that are going on actually in Ohio and Cleveland, and there's a clinic and now I found out from my psychiatrist that here in Massachusetts they're having a Cowden syndrome pre-clinical trial here, and my psychiatrist knows nothing about Cowdens, but he knew enough to tell me that.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that about your psychiatrist, because I was about to answer that question. With those other victims of this disease, do you think that their psychiatrists really care or can have the right assortment of words to express themselves and showing thought and carefulness to these patients, since this is such a rare disease that people don't really know about?
No, and not a lot of doctors or people take this disease seriously. And my psychiatrist, like, honestly, always took my feelings and my stuff to account, and always was like, gave me advice and like knows things from the top of his head. Like, he's very intelligent. And if it wasn't for him and this other doctor who's performing my surgery, like, they're the ones that have been listening to me, like, you know, I probably would not be like I am much more composed to know that there's people that do listen over the majority of my team, of my medical team, that's not listening. So that's
I know that
the life having Cowdens.
Okay, I know that you're ambitious and you are full of drive, and we can also state for a fact that there are some of those women who are, or men who are presently suffering from this Cowdens disease, who may not be like you, but would need someone like you who understand their feelings and what they are going through to speak specifically to their needs, that it can give them some hope that they can live with it and still try to live a progressive life that is conducive to society?
Yeah, I truly believe that, and there's a lot of work to be done. Like, but I know there's going to be more improvements to that, and I'm hopefully, with the more education I get in regards to my condition, because there's a lot of things I'm still learning.
Right.
But also, I know that I've already learned so much. But I know that my voice can benefit so many people. And the thing is, with a person with a composure like mine, that is not, I'm not overly emotional with things, but sometimes I do get emotional. But, you know, you can't get emotional if someone's telling you the story. You have to just, you just got to like be positive for the person that's telling you.
Right. And so, I also understand that most females who would have gone through this process or actually living this life, they often ends up having some ovarian matters like endometriosis and adenomyosis, and that somewhat completely prohibit them from having children. Now, I know for most women, unless they don't really want to get kids, having at least one child in their life means a whole lot. Is there a word that you would want to give to a female who is presently psychologically or emotionally going through this kind of stress simply because they may not be able to live a normal life and have a kid or a grandkid for their parents to play with or something like that? What nourishing word would you, and I'm asking you this because you sit on the board of SEDFOB, and I hope at some time you would be able to write a column to educate victims to how best you deal with your circumstance. What comforting word would you want to give to a female who is experiencing reproductive disorders right now because of Cowdens?
Well, since I'm currently facing with those problems, that, you know, that when you talked with me and my mom at the very first time about that I wasn't going to be able to have kids. And now, since this surgery is happening, it's living proof that I can. But the thing is, like, I want to like give it this encouraging thing that you're happy, like you should be thankful to be alive. Like you should like choose to choose your, like, taking care of your life over putting through a kid, like having a kid and being put through this condition and seeing the amount of trauma it holds with that condition, with my condition.
Right.
And, yeah. So it's just like,
one of the
that's
things
what I would
too,
say out there.
yes. One of the things I would love to ask you is that if a young lady who have Cowdens disease have the opportunity to get a child while they are in their younger teenage life, and I know how that goes, teenage pregnancy in this country goes, and the problems that associate itself with it. But would it be advisable for a parent who know her daughter is presently experiencing Cowdens disease to have a child, if possible, when they are younger in the teenage life, opposed to waiting till they get in their higher 20s where it becomes completely obsolete? I know, as I said, I know the problems that may associate getting a child at a young age, but kids don't stay kids forever. They grow up, and you may be surprised. They may not even have the same Cowdens disease that the mom have. It may not be passed on from you to that child. So, I mean, considering that, would you think that may be a good thing to look at?
Yeah, I agree. That's a definitely good thing to look at. That the thing is, like, you could still have a child, but the problem is it might not happen the second time, because my cousin who has the disease, she only has one kid, and she had a hysterectomy not too long after that.
Right.
And, you're lucky enough to have one kid.
Yes.
And, and I rather not die at birth, at giving birth to a kid, because, like, I found out I had an upside down uterus.
Okay.
So it's like, you definitely can't have kids.
Okay. But for the person
but for the person that can, and the teenagers that thinking about it, like, you should, like, think about it first before you even do it.
But that's true.
The people with my problem, because it is a lot. Because my mom has to take care of me, and she still does.
Right.
And, it's a lot of money to take care of a kid that with my problem.
I understand. So, for this reason, it may not be very well advisable then to tell a young lady who is going through this problem not to have kids at a young age, or that should be an agreement between
it's like the tough. It's the tough love, actually. Like, that's what I kind of call it. Is like, I'm like, you can't be lovey-dovey when it comes to the truth, because it is the truth.
Right.
And, I want to be, like, happy and tell people, like, yeah, you can obviously have a kid, but, like, I don't want to give people false hope.
Right. Well, I think it may not be coming down to giving false hope. I think if you discuss the pros and the cons about it, then if you have a family that is loving and thoughtful and want to see that child at least leave a successor after they pass, that they should probably overlook the negative aspects of it and give that opportunity.
Oh yeah, I agree about that. That's definitely true. Like, yeah, like, there is pros to it. Like, my cousin had, like, it's a lot of positives over the negatives. So I have to take my cousin, for example.
Right.
Since she has a kid who has the condition too. So she, the pros about it is that she'll be around after she passes.
Yes.
So it's that is the good part about having a kid. Like if the roles were reversed and I didn't end up having the surgery and I didn't end up having these problems, like maybe I would have a kid. But that's not in the cards for me, but it is in the cards for others. But being thankful to have that one kid to love,
yes,
it's a good thing. It's a blessed thing to have a kid. Like I'm not saying like don't have kids, like but like you know.
Well, let me ask you a question though, Catheryn.
If you do, you got to prepare wisely because it is risky.
Yes, your cousin. Is her baby or child experiencing any signs or form of Cowdens?
Yes.
It has?
She has a big head and she has like the mental stuff like anxiety and depression and she hasn't had like major surgeries yet.
Right.
But she had like skin problems and she had like that. But
So this is definitely
it hasn't
problem.
gone because she's still in middle school.
So this is definitely a problem that filters from one parent down to the child. It seems like you can't get away from it, however you look at it. Wow.
Yes.
I definitely believe that there should be.
Tell you the truth, yes.
There should be a support group well established within the parameters of the United States, because I believe even though it's a rare disease and you only have like approximately 2,000 people who are experiencing this, 2,000 people is a lot of people. And I think there should be some major support group that can encourage each other and give the kind of advice they would need to sustain them as they live from day to day. And as I said before, Catheryn, I would love that someday when you get through your present issues, I know that you are preparing now for surgery and so forth, major surgery, I should say. And when that is over and you are well, I would like us to really get together and establish some column on our website where you can actually dispatch the kind of guidance to those who are experiencing this. If possible, start a research unit or something, if you can put that together in our organization, that those people who are going through these moments can find someone, some group, rather than just a psychologist or a psychiatrist, find those who are living the same life that they are experiencing, and they can communicate with each other, because it's hard to advise a person if you doesn't practically experiencing what they are going through, if you are not living it. And we know that psychologists and psychiatrists, they have an answer to almost every problem. But these are problems that they would have passed through and experienced before. But now talking about a very rare disease like Cowdens disease, there's so little people in the United States, and yet still, realistically, it's still a big number of people, that they should have someone who is actually living that life, be the pace setter of advising them and giving them the right direction to go in. Because I can see clearly where this become a very sensitive subject. It's so problematic that it could bring you to a part of, I'm not a doctor, but it can also bring you to a point where you become bipolar if you don't think about it. Because it's that consciousness of recognizing who you are, and then you're still normal at one point, and you go back abnormal in another point, because the reality is what you're actually living. That have a powerful impact on your mental faculties. And not that a person may be psychologically incapacitated, but it's because your physical being has a psychological impact on what it is experiencing. And I want us to work pretty close in the future, Catheryn, I know during the coronavirus time, everyone was sit back and relax because we can go places or do things
Yeah.
and we can produce shows and all that kind of stuff. We understand that. But now that we come to a point where it is lifting, the ban is lifted and everything is going back to a sense of normality, I hope that at some time in the near future, when all is well and good with you, we can get together, put a strategic plan in place that we can outreach to those who need guidance.
Yeah, we have to put a strategic plan in motion when it comes to making these things become a reality. And plus, I am working on pre-writing the stuff that I'm writing about for advice given to people with my thing in regards to education, in regards to the healthcare issues, in regards to things like I'm working on a lot of these writing stuff at the moment. But but I know with the other things, it's going to take a lot of time and planning to get further with spreading the word about this, because we have to make an effort to do so, and we can, and I believe we can.
Yes. Well, Catheryn, we come to the end of our program. That time run pretty quickly. So I'm going to wish you all the best, and
thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome.
And happy Juneteenth.
Thank you. So we will put some plans together in the future and get things going to assist those who are experiencing and living with Cowdens disease. Until then, I want to thank you all for tuning in on Living in the 21st Century. Bye-bye.